Hey, how's it going? This is Chris with Wav.Formation Music. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and here we talk about everything music and especially music production related, so if you're into that, please hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification if you want to be notified for future videos. So the topic of today's video is something that is super important to me because it's something I struggled with for the longest time in my career, and it's how to finish more music. I know a lot of producers out there like to start new projects constantly because they have a new idea and they lay that down, and before they even get a chance to finish the song or for the chance to even see the light of day, they just scrap it and they move on to the next thing. I want to give you some tips on how we can overcome this and actually get some songs done so that it's actually something worth putting down in your portfolio. Okay, so I suggest when you sit down and open up a blank project, you need to have some intentions on what you're doing. Don't just sit down and have no idea, no melody, no nothing in your head and just get started. That is a great way to spark up some ideas and create new things, like new melodies that maybe you can save later to implement a beat later on. But if you're just going all willy-nilly with this, then there's no foundation, you have no guideline, there's no map, and you're not going to get anywhere, especially when you're starting out. If you're a little bit more seasoned, it's a little bit different because you already know what to do. You already know how to structure your song, you already know how to make it a finished product. But in this case, I'm talking to the beginners that need a foundation to build upon, and so that's what we're going to get into. Okay, so some things you can do when you're opening up a brand new project instead of coming in with no ideas. What you could do is you listen to some of your favorite songs. Use some reference tracks. Use ideas from people. Don't steal things, but use other people's songs to help you build an idea. And once you have an idea going, then it just snowballs from there. But you got to make sure you got to keep going and take the next step and not constantly get stuck and listen to your song over and over and over. So a couple things I would pay attention to closely if I was referencing a track. The first thing would be tempo. How fast is the song going? How fast is it moving? And is that how you want your song to feel? Because speed has a lot to do with how the entire song is going to come out. Because basically most of the songs in music today is one tempo. It all stays one tempo through the entire track. The second thing I would pay attention to is how the song is structured, how it goes intro, verse, hook, verse, whatever it may be. Just see how the song is laid out, and if you like some of the way the songs are laid out, I would suggest writing these down so that you have a clear picture of how the song is actually going to look when it's laid out on your timeline. Third thing I would listen to is the melody of the song. How is the song? How does the melody go? Is it fast? Is it constant? Is there constant notes, or is it just a note, blank space, note, blank space? Just listen to how it flows. And the fourth thing I would listen to is the rhythm. How is it moving? When does the kick hit? When does the snare hit? What are the drums doing? Okay, so when starting out with a brand new project, something that I suggest doing is starting out with your melody. There's that constant argument of whether you do melody or drums first. And if you're good at doing one over the other, then stick with it, by all means. But if you need help in figuring out which one you think you should do first, I highly suggest doing melody. Because melody, you can build everything around your melody. Your melody is going to be the thing that kind of fluctuates the most, because you already know the drums are going to go kick, clap, kick, snare, whatever it is. But the melody is something that is going to alter in notes, alter in speed, and the drums are going to be a little bit more constant, right? There's a rhythm to it. It's like kick, snare, kick, snare. The melody is a little bit different. You got to figure out what key it's in. If you want to play something arpeggiated, if you want to play something with some chords, it all varies, so you got to figure that out first. The main reason why I suggest building a melody first is because once you have that laid out, that's probably the most complex part of your song. Say you have that melody already. From that melody, you can figure out what the bass is by pulling the bass note. Say it's a chord, right? You can take the bass note of that and pull it down, and you can kind of just go off of there, whether you start adding or removing notes and leaving space where you want there to be. And same with the drums. You can build around the melody. The melody is going to tell you where you want your kicks to be placed, where you want your claps to be placed. Once you have a melody laid down and you know how to finger drum, or you know some rhythm, then it's going to be really easy to just plug that in, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Even if you sit there and you draw on your DAW, you're gonna know exactly where you want to put those snares and where those kicks are gonna go. And then that bass line's just gonna follow, and then everything else is just gonna build right on top. The hi-hats are just gonna play right on top. Everything is gonna play right on top. So the bottom, the first thing, the foundation should be your melody. Something to really consider is leave space for a vocalist if you plan on having a vocalist on this track. This is something that I still struggle with sometimes, and it's just overproducing. Being a producer, it's hard not to overproduce because you want to make that song so interesting and you want it to be in the spotlight. But you gotta remember to take the step back because your lead vocals are gonna be your lead instrument. Which brings me to my next point. If you don't need to have a lead, don't put a lead in there. A lead is always gonna sound cool when you're building a beat and you want a lead to go in there because you're grooving with the beat, but you want something to kind of lead the entire song. Well, that's where the vocalist comes in if you're having a vocalist on your track. So having that lead in there, unless you're really intentional with it and there's a reason for that lead to be in there, I would suggest when you're starting out to just leave out the lead, because usually the lead is going to interfere with the vocalist. Just imagine if you have a lead melody going and your vocalist is singing and you're in front of a crowd. What is the main focal point of your song? Is it going to be the vocalist or is it going to be the lead? So the lead tends to clash with the vocalist a little bit because it kind of fights for the spotlight. So just make sure if you're making beats for artists or vocalists that are going to go on it, make sure you leave space and be careful with your leads. So the human vocal range is going to take up a large portion of the spectrum. It's going to pick up sounds all the way from sub all the way up to the highs. Depending on what you're going to want to cut is up to you, but just know that you have to leave a lot of the vocal frequency in your mix, or else the vocals are going to sound thin and weak, or it's going to sound muffled. So it's a huge part of the song and you're going to want to leave a lot of space for it. Okay, so the next thing that I would really focus on once you have a good amount of instruments in your songs, you have an 8-bar loop going and it's just everything's filled up. You've got the bass, you've got the drums, you've got the melody, you've got the whatever. Once you have all that, the second you realize that you have all that and you're ready to start moving forward, the next thing I would do is structure your song out right away before you get attached to any weird ideas. And so you want to lay the entire thing out as quickly as you can. So if you say you have intro, verse, hook, and that's it. If you have that, you will be able to go in and work in each section and it's already laid out. You're not gonna have to think of that later on. You can go in and tweak as many things as you want and you don't have to worry about the structure anymore because it's completely laid out already. So when you're in your creative flow, I highly recommend leaving mixing and any technical things till later on, even another session, because you don't want to disrupt that flow. If you have something going, you want to get all your ideas out of your head onto the computer or sheet or whatever it may be before you forget it. I would leave the mixing completely aside for another session unless it's something that helps you creatively or is a placeholder for filling in some space. What I mean by that is, say you are making dance music, just as an example, if they have some heavy sidechaining that actually goes with the song and makes the song groove the way that it does. So if that's something that you need to get in there to get your ideas going and your creativity going, then by all means you should do that. And things that I'm talking about as a placeholder, say you have an instrument that you want to ring out, like say by like a reverb or a delay to repeat over and over to fill up a certain space in your song, then go ahead and do that and lay it down there so that it's a placeholder, but just don't spend too much time on it, tweaking it, making it sound perfect. Just leave it as a placeholder, just so that you know that that's what's going to go there, and when you're going to want to mix it and make it sound perfect, do that later. Okay, so the main objective here, the main reason why people don't finish their songs is because they're constantly hitting that play button because they're excited about whatever they just made, and they want to hit the play button and listen to it back and just like jam out to it. Yeah, I know it's great. That's what I do. Like I used to take my songs, export unfinished projects and listen to them on my phone over and over. I'm telling you now, that is such a bad idea. It's bad. You get so attached to these ideas that you've made, and you become attached to these ideas and the way that it is already, which is unfinished. you become attached to an unfinished product. And doing that, I've noticed that when I sit down and try to finish the session and finish the song so that I can release it, I end up having so much trouble doing it because I'm so attached to the idea already. I'm scared to make changes, to make it an actual song. I'm scared to finish the track, basically, because I need it to be perfect in every way, or else it won't be right and I can't release it. Once you come attached to these ideas, it's over. It's over. Because then you're just attached to this great loop that you made, but you can't even make it a full song because it's over. It's over. I hope some of those tips help you in helping you finish songs, but this is a skill that you should really get down as a beginning producer, or you're really going to struggle with it later on. Because I struggled with it so much in my entire career. So much struggling. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification, and come back and see me again. Peace.